Jensen Huang was born on February 17, 1963 in Tainan, Taiwan, into a world still recovering from the scars of war and colonial rule. His full name is Jen-Hsun Huang, though virtually no one outside his immediate family has ever called him anything but Jensen. The name itself is a small act of reinvention, chosen by an uncle who thought Jensen sounded strong and Western when the family immigrated to the United States in 1973, when Jensen was 9 years old. The Huangs were not wealthy. His father was an engineer at a chemical company in Taiwan. His mother taught English. Like many middle-class Taiwanese families in the early 1970s, they saw America as the land of opportunity, especially for their two sons. They first landed in Kentucky, of all places, one of the least Asian American states in the Union at the time. The culture shock was brutal. Jensen and his older brother were among the only Asian kids at their public school in Lexington, and they were bullied relentlessly. In later interviews, Huang has spoken candidly about being beaten up, having racial slurs hurled at him, and feeling profoundly alien. His parents, worried for their safety, eventually sent the boys to a small Baptist boarding school in the rural town of Oneida, Tennessee. Oneida Baptist Institute was a world away from anything the Huang brothers had known. It was poor, strict, and deeply religious. Students worked on the school farm before classes, mucking out barns and picking tobacco. Jensen has described waking at 4:30 a.m. to clean toilets and shovel manure. The school's headmaster, a stern man named Warren, became an unlikely mentor. Huang credits the experience with teaching him resilience, work ethic, and the ability to endure hardship without complaint, traits that would later define his leadership style at Nvidia. Academically, he excelled. He skipped a grade, graduated early, and won admission to Oregon State University, where he studied electrical engineering. College was the first time he felt truly in his element. He joined a fraternity, raced cars illegally on back roads, and discovered a passion for high-performance computing. In 1984, he earned his bachelor's degree, and a year later, in 1985, he completed a master in electrical engineering at Stanford University, placing him squarely in the heart of Silicon Valley just as the personal computer revolution was igniting. After Stanford, Huang went to work at LSI Logic, a semiconductor company that designed custom chips. He was 22 years old, ambitious and restless. At LSI, he met future industry legends and learned the brutal economics of chip design, the astronomical cost of fabs, the shrinking margins, the constant threat of obsolescence. He then moved to Advanced Micro Devices (AMD), where he worked under the legendary Jerry Sanders and rose quickly to become one of the youngest directors in the company. By age 30, he was a recognized star in the semiconductor world, but he was also frustrated. The PC market was maturing, graphics were still an afterthought, and no one seemed to be thinking 10 moves ahead. The idea for Nvidia came to him in 1993 over breakfast at a Denny's restaurant in Sunnyvale, California. He was having coffee with two friends, Chris Malachowski, a brilliant chip designer he had worked with at Sun Microsystems and AMD, and Curtis Preem, a graphics visionary who had helped design the world's first GUI accelerator at IBM and later at Sun. All three were in their late 20s or early 30s, all three were tired of working for big companies that moved slowly, and all three believed that 3D graphics were about to explode. The problem, no one else did. At the time, more than 30 companies were fighting for dominance in the graphics chip market. SGI, 3DFX, Rendition, Matrox, Addy, Trident, and dozens more. The market was tiny, fragmented, and widely considered a dead end. Conventional wisdom said graphics would remain a niche served by expensive workstations from Silicon Graphics or at best low-margin add-in cards for gamers. Jensen, Chris, and Curtis saw something different. They believed that real-time 3D graphics would become as fundamental to computing as the CPU itself. They believed Moore's law would make it possible to put cinematic rendering on a single chip. And they believed that if they didn't bet everything on that vision, someone else eventually would. On April 5, 1993, with $40,000 in personal savings split three ways, they founded Nvidia. The name was a play on the Latin word Nvidia, NV, and the abbreviation for Next Vision Digital Image Architecture. They rented a tiny office above a Plinius restaurant in Sunnyvale and got to work. The early years were apocalyptic. Their first product, the NV1, launched in 1995 as a 2D/3D multimedia accelerator built for the fledgling Sega Saturn console and PCI-based PCs. It used an exotic quadratic texture mapping technique that Sega loved but PC game developers hated. The chip bombed. By 1996, Nvidia was nearly bankrupt, down to its last $3 million and facing lawsuits from disgruntled partners. Jensen has recounted sleeping on the office floor, unsure whether the company would survive the week. In one of the most famous near-death pivots in Silicon Valley history, Nvidia abandoned quadratic textures, adopted the industry-standard triangle-based rendering, and rushed out the RIVA 128 in 1997. It was the world's first 128-bit 3D accelerator with integrated 2D video and DirectX support, and it was a monster hit. Overnight, Nvidia went from laughingstock to leader. The company had gone public in 1999 at a split-adjusted $0.40, began its long climb. But the real turning point came in 1999 with the GeForce 256, marketed as the world's first GPU. The term GPU, graphics processing unit, was Jensen's invention. Up until then, the industry called them graphics accelerators or 3D chips. Jensen understood that language shapes perception. By coining GPU, he elevated the category from peripheral to fundamental computing building block. The GeForce 256 introduced hardware transform and lighting T&L, offloading geometry calculations from the CPU for the first time. It was a generational leap and it crushed the competition. 3DFX, the former king of PC gaming graphics, collapsed into bankruptcy within months. Nvidia acquired its assets for pennies on the dollar in 2000. From 2000 to 2006, Nvidia dominated consumer graphics. The GeForce T series, the FX series, and then the groundbreaking GeForce 6 and 7 series cemented the Green Team's reputation among gamers. But Jensen never saw gaming as the endgame. He kept investing heavily in software, building the CUDA parallel computing platform starting in 2006, long before anyone outside a few research labs cared about general-purpose computing on GPUs, GPGPU. That decision looked insane at the time. Wall Street punished Nvidia's stock for years because R&D spending was sky-high and gaming margins were volatile. Analysts begged Huang to cut research and return cash to shareholders. He refused. He kept telling anyone who would listen that GPUs were the future of computing because they were massively parallel, power-efficient, and programmable, perfect for the coming age of machine learning. Almost no one believed him. Then, in 2008-2009, a young researcher named Andrew Ng at Stanford discovered that Nvidia GPUs could train deep neural networks 70 times faster than CPUs. Papers started appearing. Word spread in the AI research community. Suddenly, every major lab was buying GeForce cards and stacking them in server racks. In 2010, Nvidia launched the Tesla brand for data center GPUs. In 2012, Alex Krzyzewski used Nvidia GPUs to win the ImageNet competition by an obscene margin, igniting the deep learning revolution. The age of AI had arrived, and Nvidia was the only company on Earth with a decade head start in the hardware, software, and ecosystem required to power it. The rest is financial history. From 2015 to 2025, Nvidia's market capitalization grew from roughly $15 billion to, at points in 2024-2025, over $3.5 trillion, making it briefly the most valuable company in the world, ahead of Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. Jensen Huang became the longest-tenured CEO of any major American tech company, 32 years and counting as of 2025, and one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet, with a personal net worth that has at times exceeded $120 billion. But numbers only tell part of the story. What makes Jensen Huang extraordinary is not just that he was right about GPUs and AI, it's that he was willing to bet everything, repeatedly, on ideas that looked reckless or insane to everyone else. He bet the company on 3D graphics in 1993 when the market was tiny and crowded. He bet the company again on the RIVA 128 in 1997 when bankruptcy was weeks away. He bet the company a third time on CUDA and GPGPU in 2006 when investors screamed that he was wasting money. He bet the company a fourth time on self-driving cars in 2014-2015, launching the Drive platform and acquiring nothing short of an entire autonomous vehicle stack. He bet the company a fifth time on data center AI in 2016-2018, pivoting thousands of engineers away from consumer graphics just as crypto mining collapsed and gaming headwinds hit. And in 2023-2025, he bet the company yet again on sovereign AI, robotics, physical AI, and industrial simulation, launching the Omniverse platform, the DGX Cloud, the Blackwell architecture, and Project GR00T for humanoid robots. Each time the stakes were existential, each time the board, the analysts, or the market begged him to play it safe, each time he refused. This pattern has earned him a reputation as either a visionary genius or a reckless gambler, depending on whom you ask. Insiders say he runs Nvidia like a dictatorship wrapped in relentless optimism. Meetings with Jensen are legendary. He asks brutal questions, tolerates no bullshit, and has been known to fire people on the spot for presenting slides with typos. Yet the same employees describe him as the most inspiring leader they've ever worked for, someone who remembers their children's names, who flies economy with the team, who still codes on weekends. His management style is a strange blend of Taiwanese family values, Kentucky Baptist discipline, and Silicon Valley meritocracy. He is famous for the Jensenisms that fill Nvidia's corridors. The more you hurt, the stronger you get. We are 30 days from going out of business, always. Pain is temporary, regret is forever. Our company has no finish line. He wears the same uniform every day, black leather jacket made by a small Italian company that reportedly has trouble keeping up with demand from Nvidia employees who all want one, black shirt, black jeans, black boots. He claims it saves mental bandwidth. The jacket has become so iconic that when he appeared without it at a 2024 event, social media exploded with memes asking if Nvidia was doomed. On stage, Jensen is part rock star, part preacher. His keynotes, always 2 hours long, always delivered without notes, are theatrical spectacles complete with smoke machines, orchestral music, and reveals so audacious that even jaded journalists gasp. He coined the phrase AI factory to describe the new data centers that will power the next industrial revolution. He speaks of physical AI and robot economies with the fervor of someone who genuinely believes humanity is on the cusp of its greatest leap since fire or electricity. Yet for all his bombast, he is deeply introspective in private. He reads voraciously history, philosophy, physics. He is obsessed with World War II, the Roman Empire, and the life of Winston Churchill. He has said that the greatest book ever written about leadership is Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. He meditates daily, practices transcendental meditation, and has spoken openly about the loneliness of being CEO. His family life is remarkably normal given his wealth. He has been married to his college sweetheart, Lori Huang, also an electrical engineer from Oregon State, since 1987. They have 2 children, Spencer and Madison, both now adults who have largely stayed out of the public eye. The family still lives in the same house in Los Altos Hills they bought decades ago. Jensen drives a modest Acura, though he does own a McLaren P1 he rarely drives. He refuses to own a yacht or a private jet, claiming he doesn't have time. Politically, he is hard to pin down. He has donated to both Democrats and Republicans, praised aspects of China's industrial policy while fiercely defending Taiwan, and spoken out against protectionism while quietly lobbying for export controls on advanced AI chips. He is a passionate advocate for immigration, pointing out that Nvidia's founding team consisted of immigrants from Taiwan, India, and the American South. As of November 2025, at age 62, Jensen Huang shows no signs of slowing down. Nvidia is shipping the Blackwell platform at scale. The Rubin architecture is already on the drawing board for 2026, and the company has announced plans to build AI supercomputers in Japan, Europe, India, and the Middle East. He has begun speaking openly about training general-purpose humanoid robots and simulating entire factories in photorealistic digital twins, ideas that sound like science fiction but are backed by billions in real contracts. When asked about retirement, he laughs and says, "I'm just getting started." Whether Nvidia will dominate the next era as thoroughly as it has the last is the trillion-dollar question hanging over Silicon Valley. Competitors, AMD, Intel, a resurgent Samsung, and dozens of AI startups are gunning for him. Geopolitical risks around Taiwan and U.S.-China relations loom large. The energy requirements of AI training are becoming politically explosive. But if history is any guide, betting against Jensen Huang has been one of the worst financial decisions anyone has ever made for 32 consecutive years. He remains, in his own words, a paranoid optimist. He still believes the best way to predict the future is to invent it, and he still signs every major company email with the same 4 words he has used since 1993. Onward. Jensen. That single word, onward, may be the most accurate summary of the man. Through near bankruptcies, dot-com crashes, crypto winters, trade wars, pandemics, and more CEO tenures than most people have jobs, Jensen Huang has never stopped moving forward. And the world, whether it knows it or not, has followed.